Well, I was speaking with Mary about the old times, like I normally did, and somehow the old brown cemetery came up. And that was behind Blonder and Tongue, off of Jake Brown Road, which used to go through to Route 9. Oh, yeah. It's been vacated for years, but it at one time went right through to Route 9. Well, we decided to take a little trip out there to see if we can find the old cemetery. And we walked in the woods, had a general location, but we never found anything. No, never did find anything. But we had a pretty good location. I mean, but it was so overgrown. It was behind where they now have a shooting range, metal detectors and such. Yeah, maybe if we had that, we would have had a better chance. But
Mary used to work out of her house. She had the clerk's office was in her house, and she had to run for election too. I don't know how many times she had to run before she was permanent. That I don't remember, but she worked out of her house there on 34. And I think we met her the first time is when she had brought White and Brown home to be buried here in Tennant. And she had to run for election, and I don't know what the term was. I don't remember that. But then after a while, I guess they decided to make a clerk's permanent. But she had to run for election every so often. Excuse me, she was a very good friend. Yeah. And she'd say to me, "Do I owe your old man money?" But he'd worked for her, you know. And I'd say, "I'd have to check and see, Mary." And then she'd stop a couple of days. "I paid him." She was good. She was good. She'd stop and ask him to do whatever Joan wanted at the house. "Come in and eat, Mary." We're just sitting down to eat, and she'd come in and eat with us. Sunday dinner or dinner at night, you know. Yeah. We had a good rapport. I saw Mary parked behind the hardware store, and I looked out, and she was like this. And that wasn't Mary. And I went, "Mary, are you all right?" "Yes." I said, "What's the matter, Mary?" "Oh, it's Jim. Jim had just had a terrible accident where someone was killed." And then I saw her another time. She was older and coming out of town hall, and she was so tired. I said, "Mary, why don't you give it up?" She said, "Ann, I have nothing. Joni's gone, and Jim is Jim. This is all I have." A few years later, she was gone.
Ended up with tenements and
Well, I definitely think she had a lot of influence on the current town's development. And I think that a lot of that was because she knew so much about the area and so much about the town.
Right.
And she had a very serious devotion and was very devoted to the community.
Yes.
So the farmers were important to her because she grew up in that environment. The new residents were important to her because they knew they needed services, which would mean the growth of the town, additional police, additional first aid, additional whatever. And she was very, very smart at identifying the areas that needed of concern. So when we did development work, she was the clerk of the planning board. She knew the part of the town that was being described for development, and therefore could lend itself to the factors. So, Mary would meet with developers and members on the planning board to make sure that the township was being given the proper justice relative to what was being offered. And she had a lot of insight. She knew enough about the community to be able to give us the right kind of advice. At a council meeting, if a resident came and had a conversation that they wished to share with the town council, either a concern or a need, okay, Mary could verify and say, that is correct, because that area of the town has a very serious flooding area problem, or that area of the town does have the need for better corrections. So she was a great mentor. She was very, very close with me. I enjoyed our friendship as much as I enjoyed her political background. I remember she was so excited because I gave her a surprise 85th birthday party at my house. Yeah, and then we had, of course, we had her 90th birthday party at Town Hall.
Yeah.
But her 85th birthday party, I remember that vividly. And her son Jim was there, and she just thought that was so great, you know. Well, she would enjoy a ride to Atlantic City when they first opened up, because don't forget, the League of Municipalities was held in Atlantic City for years and years. And Mary was the one person that made sure all of the accommodations were handled. She made sure that all of the organizations that had to be visited, and she made sure that if you were going to attend, that you participated in what was going to be said about the needs for the community and the state and the county. And I was called, so would you be interested in serving in government? And I ran for town council, and Mary was always very, very supportive of myself. She would also, you know, join Joan and me at our home. She was very close friends. To this day, I mean, I remember her, you know, my wife was somewhat shy around politics because, and she would say to Joan, "That is not your game." You know, and she was right. And some people have a gear for it, and some people don't.
My father.
I mean, I'm very pleased and proud of the political people that served our communities and the former mayors and others. But truthfully, Mary Brown made them better mayors, made them better people. Yeah. So if you didn't have that kind of a background, you would never. I know I could not have done the job if I didn't have Mary's background. When I first was elected under the new form of government as the first elected mayor of the town, and before that I was a mayor under the appointed form of the town. And I remember in my first year, as my very first week as mayor, I had a wedding to perform, and I didn't know what would be the format for performing this wedding. Okay. So who did I call? I called Mary Brown. I said, "Mary, some people are coming in to get married. What do I do?" She said, "Okay, meet me in my office." And she had a Bible. And she says, you know, you could take a verse from the Bible. We use the Corinthians, Paul, to the Corinthians. And it's very, very common and well used in a number of wedding ceremonies. Love is kind, love is gentle. And it's obviously probably one of the most popular. And we were a civil organization. We performed civil ceremonies. But most people, when I asked, would you want any of these verses said yes, we would. Yes, we would. So Mary kind of was smart enough to know that, yeah, we can't mix church and state, and we don't profess to want to do that. But believe it or not, some people do want morality, and they think of that as part of what they do. So she was very helpful. I remember my very first, and I believe she was one of the witnesses in the wedding I performed. So, and then thereafter, I must have done 500 more weddings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you know, some of them were unique and different. I did one in a hot air balloon, and Mary thought I was nuts, and yeah, she used to tease me all the time because I was an active person, very into athletics and playing golf and ball and jogging and whatever. And she would tell me, "You're gonna rattle your brains with that running up and down Throckmorton Lane," you know. But very devoted to her family.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, what a spirited individual. I mean, she and her sister would literally drive to Florida when they were in their late 80s, and I mean, two elderly folks, you know. She was unique and funny, and she was funny. But I think about her a lot.
Yeah.
Think about her a lot.
And
She would hear of a tragedy,
yeah.
and she made sure she reached out to the family to see what she could do to help them. And I mean, I'm serious. And there were times that she did. She brought groceries and stuff to the family, and said, "Listen, you know, we heard about your loss. We want to help in whatever way we can." And you know, today we have food banks. Back then we had Mary Brown. So
Yeah, we do.
you know,
About her.
yeah, and that's what Mary did. And she also was generous even in supporting a cause. You know, and she was very, very helpful both financially and also commitment wise. So Mary was a unique individual. There's not going to be, there won't be another Mary Brown that can be identified in the same way. There are wonderful people, good people that do a lot of good things.
Right.
Okay, but every person has a unique mark, and Mary Brown left her mark. So I think we need a greater commemorative place with Mary. I really do. I do think that there's something in the boundaries of Old Bridge, which were the boundaries of Madison Township, that should identify with Mary Brown.